The issue of race and university admissions is probably the most polarizing and high-profile area of the law that any of us have looked at over the last, I'd say, 25 years.
Ethnic diversity is a very important part of the diversity that is critical for a good educational experience for all of our students on the campus. We live in a world where people work across national boundaries and ethnic boundaries. But we also live in a country where race and ethnicity is still an issue.
We understood at the University of Texas at Austin that we were under intense scrutiny and that our work and our policies would be challenged.
UT's reintroduction of race really painted a bullseye on the school for litigation either by Abby Fisher and others, or a different group at a different time.
There were people in my class with lower grades who weren't in all the activities I was in who were being accepted into UT, and the only other difference between us was the color of our skin.
We believe that but for the fact that she was white, she would have been admitted.
I didn't do this for recognition. I just wanted to stand up and say this isn't right because it isn't. I hope that by doing this, other students in years to come won't have to worry about the color of their skin when applying to college.
So it's a typical morning here at Georgetown Law School as I'm reading through these files, and here are two that jump out at me. We're going to be watching carefully what happens in the Fisher case. What are we going to do if and when the court says, I'm sorry, you may not take race into account. You are not permitted to do that. It's not up to you. We're telling you you can't do it.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bill Powers. I'm the president of the University of Texas Law School. I did have a sense that I was at a moment of history, a very important moment, certainly for our university, but for our country. We just have to keep making progress on opening doors. It is terribly important to the future of our country, which fork in this road we take.
Race and ethnicity have no place in university admissions. This case hopefully will come to that conclusion, but if it doesn't, another case one day will. And if in the interim, Fisher versus University of Texas has diminished racial classifications and preferences in higher education, then it will have been a great success.
We seem to have been at the center of this for some time, and if you kind of look at the trio of cases of Sweat, Hopwood, and now Fisher, we don't own it, but we certainly are close.
The University of Texas's main building and tower really hasn't changed a whole lot since the days of Heman, Marion, Sweat. The registrar's office is still room 1, and it was here that Heman, Marion, Sweat first applied for admission to the University of Texas Law School.
In his letter to the Attorney General, Painter said specifically that this individual is qualified in every way, save and except for the fact that he is a Negro. So Painter, in his own way, gave Thurgood Marshall exactly what Marshall had been hoping for, and that is that this issue is now reduced to one of naked discrimination.
When we think about it today, it sounds pretty pedestrian, the right to go to your state university. But in those days, it meant everything.
Our family was chosen by Heman Sweat because it was one night at a church, as I understand it, that he said, when nobody else would, oh, I'll do it. That's the only reason that we stand out from the crowd, because he said, I'll do it, and stood by his word. And I'm very proud of him for that.
Heman Sweat knows what he's doing. He knows what's going on. And quite frankly, so does everybody else. I mean, this is part of a legal strategy to reach the Supreme Court to end racial segregation in the United States.
I followed it to the extent a kid my age had interest in it, in the papers. And they obviously asked me, since my name was the same, you know, are you related to him? And said, yes, I am. He's my uncle. I thought it just meant that blacks would be able to go to the state universities in the state of Texas. I did not understand that this was integrating all of the graduate schools across the South, but that's the exact effect that it had. And that was a great thing.
I think there is an unbroken link between Sweat versus Painter and Fisher versus University of Texas. And that link is Heman Sweat applied to the University of Texas and wanted to be admitted without his race being a factor in that decision. Abby Fisher applied to the University of Texas and wanted that decision to be made without her race being a factor. I think it's one long historical chain that has hopefully about to be settled by the U.S. Supreme Court.